19-year-old Amara Daniels had always lived in the shadow of someone else's wealth. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and carried a quiet fire in her heart that most mistook for defiance. Born to a single mother who worked endless hours as a maid in the richest man's mansion in the city, Amara knew one truth: life wasn't fair. And tonight, this very night, she found herself standing at the edge of a decision that could either free her family or destroy them completely. Her hands trembled as she stared at the dimly lit hallway, where the billionaire's secrets lay behind a locked door. One step, one act, one bold move, and her world would never be the same again. But if she stayed silent, would she watch her mother suffer forever? Would she let the powerful crush the powerless again? Or would she dare to act while the man who controlled everything slept peacefully in his golden bed? The sunlight streamed through the crystal windows of the mansion earlier that morning, pouring into halls decorated with marble floors and portraits worth more than the Daniels family had ever seen in their lives. To most, it was a palace. To Amara, it was a prison made of wealth. Her mother, Angela Daniels, walked quickly across the polished floors in her plain uniform, carrying silver trays and whispering yes, sir, and of course, ma'am to people who barely acknowledged her. Angela was kind, disciplined, but her back had bent under years of service. The weight of debts, humiliation, and silence had etched lines into her face. Amara had grown up inside these walls, not as a daughter of privilege, but as a shadow. She had seen the lies, the corruption, the way Mr. Richard Sterling, the billionaire owner of the mansion, controlled politicians, police, and even people's dreams with the power of his money. To the world, he was a philanthropist. To those who worked beneath him, he was a tyrant wrapped in silk. That morning, as the staff moved about in silence, Amara noticed something. A man in a black suit, not part of the usual guards, walked past the kitchen. His movements were stiff, his eyes scanning. He slipped an envelope into the study when no one was looking. Amara's instincts sharpened. She had always been too observant for her own good. Something was wrong. Amara, her mother whispered sharply later in the pantry. Why are you staring at everyone like that? Keep your head down. Don't give anyone a reason to notice you. Amara clenched her fists. Mama, don't you ever wonder why we're stuck here like this? Why he has everything, and we're... Enough. Angela's voice cracked, but her eyes begged. We survive by being invisible. That's how we eat. That's how we pay your school fees. Don't forget who owns this house. But Amara wasn't like her mother. She had fire. And fire could not stay hidden forever. That night, while the billionaire slept upstairs in his wing of the mansion, laughter from his wealthy guests echoing faintly in the distance, Amara couldn't shake the image of that black-suited stranger and the envelope. Her gut told her there was something inside that room that mattered, something Sterling was hiding. She found herself standing outside the study. The heavy wooden door loomed before her. Her pulse throbbed in her throat. Behind her, the clock ticked past midnight. The mansion was silent except for the distant hum of guards. Her mother had told her never to go near this door. That it was forbidden. That people who crossed boundaries in this house disappeared from their jobs, and sometimes from the city itself. Amara reached out, her hand trembling on the doorknob. It was locked. Of course. But in her pocket, she carried a thin wire, something she had picked up from a friend who taught her tricks, just in case. She bent down, heart pounding, and worked at the lock. A click. The door shifted open. Inside, the study smelled of leather and dust, the shelves lined with ancient books no one had touched in years. Papers cluttered the desk. And there, on the polished wood, lay the envelope. Amara picked it up, her breath caught in her throat. She opened it with shaking fingers. Inside were documents, contracts, bank slips, and something else that froze her blood. Photographs. Photographs of children. Poor children. Names, faces, and numbers scribbled beside them like inventory. Her hands shook. What was this? A voice suddenly echoed from behind. What do you think you're doing? Amara spun around, her heart slamming against her chest. It wasn't her mother. It wasn't a guard. It was someone she never expected, Sterling's only son, Daniel Sterling, standing in the shadows with his arms crossed. He looked nothing like his father's image in the newspapers. His expression was hard, but his eyes were conflicted. Amara clutched the envelope to her chest. Daniel stepped forward. "If you value your life, you'll put that down right now. You don't know what you've just touched." Amara's voice cracked, but she forced the words out. "Then tell me, what is this? What is your father doing with children's names in these files?" Daniel hesitated. And in that hesitation, Amara saw the truth. He knew. He knew everything. The tension burned the air between them. Amara's mind raced. Should she run? Should she scream? Should she trust the son of the man she despised? And then, faintly, from the hallway outside, the sound of footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. Not her mother. Not the regular guards. Someone else was coming toward the study. Amara's pulse quickened. If she was caught here with these files, both she and her mother's lives would be destroyed. Daniel's eyes locked onto hers. For a second, his cold mask cracked. "Listen to me," he whispered. "If my father finds you with that envelope, you won't make it out of this house alive." The doorknob rattled. Someone was trying to get in. Amara had seconds. Would she hand the envelope to Daniel and hope he was different from his father? Would she hide and risk discovery? Or would she run into the darkness with the billionaire's deepest secret pressed against her chest? The decision hung like a blade over her future. And in that moment, Amara Daniels realized the night was no longer about survival. It was about truth. The doorknob rattled again, harder this time. Whoever stood outside wasn't just passing by, they wanted in. Amara's chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths. Her fingers clenched the envelope so tightly the edges cut into her skin. Daniel Sterling's warning echoed in her ears, "If my father finds you with that, you won't make it out alive." But why was he helping her? Could she trust him? Daniel stepped closer, his voice low, urgent. "Give it to me. I can hide it. They won't search me. You, on the other hand, you'll be finished the moment they open that door." Amara's heart screamed against the logic. Trust the son of the man whose corruption filled these papers? The same man whose empire her mother served like a slave? The handle twisted sharply. A gruff voice barked from outside, "Open this door." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Decide. Now." Her instinct made the choice for her. She shoved the envelope inside her uniform, pressing it tight against her chest. Daniel's eyes widened in shock. "You're insane," he hissed. "They'll kill you." Before she could reply, the door burst open. A guard in a dark suit stormed in, followed by the same man Amara had seen earlier slipping the envelope onto the desk. His sharp eyes scanned the room, landing on her immediately. "What's this girl doing here?" he demanded. Daniel stepped forward, blocking part of Amara from their view. "She cleans here sometimes. I found her snooping, but it's nothing. I was about to send her out." The man's eyes narrowed. "Your father doesn't like intruders." Daniel's voice hardened. "And my father doesn't like his son being questioned in his own house." For a tense moment, the room froze. Then the guard muttered something under his breath and stepped back. The suited man gave Amara one last piercing look before motioning to the guard. "We'll report this." And with that, they walked away. Amara's knees nearly gave out. Her pulse thundered. She had been seconds away from ruin. Daniel closed the door, his face pale. He turned to her, his voice sharp but trembling. "What were you thinking? Do you want to die?" Amara shot back, her voice raw. "What are you hiding, Daniel? You knew about this. About the children." His gaze darkened. For a moment, he looked like his father, cold, unreadable. Then his shoulders slumped. "It's not what you think. But you wouldn't believe me even if I told you." Amara stepped closer, defiant. "Try me." The silence stretched before Daniel finally spoke. His voice dropped, heavy with guilt. My father has arrangements. Deals with men you don't ever want to meet. The files you saw, they're records. Proof of what he buys, what he controls. You think it's just money? No. It's lives. Families. Children from poor neighborhoods, taken, promised education, promised futures. But they don't come back. Amara's blood ran cold. He's trafficking them. Daniel's eyes flicked to hers, pained but confirming. And now you understand why holding those papers is a death sentence. Amara's chest ached. Those children could have been her friends. Could have been her. Then why haven't you stopped him? His jaw tightened. Because he's my father. And because everyone who tries, disappears. Her voice rose, trembling with rage. So you just watch? You let it happen? He stepped closer, his face inches from hers, his voice breaking. Do you think I don't hate him? Do you think I don't want him stopped? But I can't fight him alone. And neither can you. The words hung in the air like smoke. From outside, voices echoed, more guards, searching the halls. Daniel moved quickly. We can't stay here. Follow me. Now. Amara hesitated. But footsteps were coming closer. She didn't have a choice. She followed Daniel out a side passage behind the study, winding through hidden staircases she never knew existed. The mansion, even in silence, felt alive with danger. Every corner seemed to hold eyes. Every shadow whispered betrayal. Finally, they slipped into an unused servants' corridor. Daniel leaned against the wall, catching his breath. His hands shook slightly, though he tried to hide it. Amara pressed the envelope tighter to her chest. I'm not giving this up. This is proof. This could destroy him. Daniel's eyes burned into hers. Or it could destroy you. Do you even know what you're holding? This isn't just evidence, it's leverage. Men far more dangerous than my father would kill for it. And you're one girl, the maid's daughter, standing in the middle of a war you don't understand. Amara's throat tightened, but her spirit refused to break. Then teach me. Because I won't stay silent. Not while children disappear. Not while my mother breaks her back for scraps. If no one else will fight him, I will. Daniel's face shifted, anger, fear, then something else. Respect. You're going to get yourself killed, he whispered. Maybe, Amara replied. But at least I won't die serving a man like him. The words struck deep. Daniel turned away, running his hand through his hair. You don't understand. Once you take this path, there's no going back. You'll never have a normal life again. No peace. No safety. Just running, hiding, fighting shadows. Amara's voice was steady. Then I've already chosen. Before Daniel could answer, the sound of footsteps returned, this time closer, urgent, almost pounding through the corridor. Daniel froze. They've tracked us. Amara's stomach twisted. What do we do? Daniel's eyes locked on hers, fierce and desperate. Run. Run and don't look back. If they catch you with that envelope, it's over. But Amara couldn't move. Not yet. Because deep inside, she knew this wasn't just about running. This was the beginning of something bigger. The footsteps thundered closer, voices barking orders. Daniel grabbed her arm. Trust me or don't, but decide now. The corridor filled with shadows as the guards turned the corner. Flashlights cut through the darkness, beams landing dangerously close. Amara's chest heaved. The envelope pressed like a burning coal against her chest. Would she stay and risk capture beside the billionaire's son? Or would she break away, vanishing into the night with the secret that could shatter everything? Her next step would decide not only her fate but her mother's, Daniel's, and the countless missing children whose names cried out from the envelope in her hands. And in the darkness of that mansion, Amara Daniels understood, sometimes, one bold choice can set fire to an empire. The flashlights pierced through the corridor like blades of white fire. Guards shouted, their heavy boots slamming against the marble. The sound grew louder, closer, drowning out Amara's heartbeat. "Go!" Daniel hissed, yanking her arm. But Amara dug her feet into the floor, eyes wide, chest heaving. "If I run, they'll find me. They'll find my mother too. We'll both be destroyed." Daniel's jaw clenched. For a heartbeat, he hesitated, then shoved open a panel in the wall, revealing a narrow stairwell hidden behind old boards. "Here. Servants used this decades ago. No one remembers. Trust me." Amara hesitated. Trust him? The son of the monster? The man who lived in silk sheets while her mother scrubbed floors? But the guards were seconds away. She had no choice. She slipped into the stairwell. Daniel followed, closing the panel just as beams of light swept past. The stairwell was suffocatingly narrow, dust clogging her throat, wood creaking under their feet. They climbed down in silence until they reached a locked door that led to the back gardens. Daniel smashed it open with his shoulder, and they spilled into the night air. The mansion grounds stretched before them, vast gardens lit by cold moonlight, fountains whispering, statues casting eerie shadows. Daniel gripped her shoulder. "Listen. You can't go home. They'll watch you. Your mother too. If you care about her, you'll disappear. Tonight." Amara's chest tightened. "Leave her? She's all I have." "Exactly why she's their first target," Daniel shot back. His voice cracked, but he steadied it. "If you want to protect her, you need to stay away. At least until we figure this out." Amara's throat burned with unshed tears. "And you? Why are you even helping me?" Daniel looked away, the muscles in his jaw twitching. "Because I'm tired of being his son. Tired of pretending I don't see the filth he hides. You think I'm free, Amara? I'm chained tighter than anyone." The raw honesty in his tone startled her. But before she could reply, shouts erupted from the mansion. Guards were flooding the gardens. Daniel grabbed her hand. "Run!" They sprinted across the grass, weaving through hedges and marble paths. The night was alive with barking dogs, radios crackling, and beams of searchlight sweeping across the estate. Amara's lungs burned, her legs screaming, but she refused to stop. The envelope thudded against her chest with every desperate stride. It felt heavier than the world itself. At the far edge of the property stood the old servant's gate, rusted, half forgotten. Daniel shoved it open with a grunt. They stumbled onto the dark street beyond. For the first time, Amara was outside the mansion's walls with the billionaire's secret in her hands. But freedom didn't taste sweet. It tasted dangerous. They ducked into an alley, panting. Amara pressed against the cold brick, clutching the envelope. Her voice trembled. "We can go to the police. We can show them." Daniel cut her off with a bitter laugh. "The police? My father owns them. Judges, officers, even journalists. That's how he's untouchable. You hand this to the police, and they'll hand you back to him." Amara's stomach dropped. "Then who do we go to?" Daniel's eyes burned with urgency. "There's a man. A lawyer. My father's enemy. He's been trying to expose him for years. But he never had proof. Those papers, you're holding the weapon he's been waiting for." Amara's hands trembled. A weapon. She wasn't a fighter. She was just a maid's daughter. But for the first time, she realized she held power. Real, dangerous power. "Where is he?" she whispered. Daniel looked down the empty street, scanning. "Downtown. But getting there won't be easy." Suddenly, headlights swept across the alley. A black SUV screeched to a halt. Men in suits spilled out, their movements fast, precise, hunting. Daniel cursed under his breath. "They're already here." Amara's breath caught. "How?" "My father has eyes everywhere," Daniel muttered. His hand gripped hers again. This way. They bolted through the maze of streets, weaving through market stalls long closed for the night. Amara's legs ached, her lungs felt like fire, but adrenaline carried her forward. The men shouted behind them, closing in. At the end of the alley stood a chain-link fence, topped with barbed wire. No way around it. Amara's heart sank. We're trapped. Daniel turned to her, his eyes blazing. No. We climb. He boosted her up, his hands firm against her foot. Amara scrambled, fingers gripping the cold metal, pulling herself upward. The envelope pressed painfully against her chest, but she refused to let it go. Below, the men's footsteps pounded closer. Daniel climbed after her. One of the men raised a gun. Amara froze, her body trembling. Jump! Daniel shouted. She dropped to the other side, landing hard on her knees. Pain shot up her legs, but she bit back a cry. Daniel landed beside her a second later. Gunfire cracked. Bullets sparked against the fence. They didn't stop to look back. They ran. Finally, breathless, they ducked into an abandoned warehouse near the docks. The place smelled of rust and salt water, shadows stretching across broken crates. Amara collapsed against the wall, clutching her knees. Her entire body shook. Daniel paced, his hand dragging through his hair. We don't have much time. By morning, the whole city will be looking for us. Amara stared at the envelope. Her voice was a whisper. What if we fail? What if he finds us? Daniel turned, his gaze sharp. Then at least we tried. Better than bowing forever. Their eyes locked. For the first time, Amara saw something in him she never expected: courage. And maybe, just maybe, he saw the same in her. But before the moment could settle, a sudden sound echoed through the warehouse. A slow clap. They froze. From the shadows, a tall man stepped forward. His smile was cold, his suit immaculate. He wasn't one of the guards. His presence was worse, controlled, deliberate, dangerous. Well, the man drawled. The maid's little girl and the master's son. Running together. How poetic. Amara's blood turned to ice. Who are you? Daniel demanded. The man's smile widened. A friend of your father's. And tonight, children, you've stolen something that belongs to us. His gaze flicked to the envelope in Amara's trembling hands. She clutched it tighter, her heart racing. The man's eyes gleamed. Now be smart, girl. Hand it over before you drown in a war you can't even imagine. Amara's chest heaved. The envelope felt like fire in her hands. She knew one thing for certain: if she gave it up now, the truth would vanish forever. The warehouse fell silent except for the echo of that man's deliberate footsteps. His eyes gleamed with calculation as he stepped into the thin strip of moonlight cutting through the broken roof. Amara's grip on the envelope tightened until her knuckles turned white. Daniel shifted protectively in front of her, though his face betrayed the fear he tried to hide. The man tilted his head. You don't know who I am, do you? His voice was smooth, almost gentle, but every word carried an edge of steel. Daniel's jaw tightened. One of my father's dogs? The man chuckled. Dog? No. Dogs obey without thought. I negotiate. Your father and I, we've built things together. Empires of silence. You think you can tear that down with a few pieces of paper? Amara's heart thudded painfully. Those papers have names. Children. People your empire destroyed. The man's smile didn't falter. People are a currency, dear. Always have been. Always will be. You can't change that. But you can choose to survive. He stretched out his hand, palm up, as if offering a gift. Give me the envelope. Walk away. You and your mother will never be touched again. A house, money, safety. Everything you've ever wanted. All you have to do is let go. His words slithered into the air, tempting, poisonous. Amara's chest heaved. Safety. For her mother. A house. A life without fear. But at what cost? She remembered the photographs, small faces staring at her from the envelope, children who hadn't been given a choice. Children already silenced. Her voice trembled, but her eyes hardened. You think my mother raised me to sell my soul? To take blood money while others suffer? The man's expression flickered, then turned cold. Careful, girl. Pride won't keep you alive. Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp. She said no. Leave. The man turned his gaze on Daniel, studying him with cruel amusement. Ah, the prodigal son. I wondered when you'd grow a spine. But tell me, boy, are you ready to burn with her? Or will you finally remember who you are? Daniel's fists clenched. He didn't answer. The man sighed, as if disappointed. Then so be it. He snapped his fingers. Two shadows moved at the far end of the warehouse, more men in suits, guns glinting under the pale light. Amara's blood froze. Daniel grabbed her hand. Run! They darted between crates as bullets shattered the silence, ricocheting off rusted metal. The air reeked of gunpowder and dust. Amara's chest burned with every breath, but she refused to let go of the envelope. Daniel shoved a crate down, sending it crashing into their pursuer's path. This way. They burst through a side door, stumbling into the night air of the docks. The sea wind whipped Amara's hair, carrying the salty sting of ocean spray. Behind them, the men gave chase. Daniel dragged her toward a row of fishing boats. If we can get out to the water, we might lose them. Amara's legs screamed with exhaustion, but fear drove her forward. They leapt onto a rickety boat, Daniel fumbling with the ropes. The engine coughed, then roared to life. The men reached the pier, shouting, guns raised. Bullets tore through the wooden planks as the boat lurched away, rocking violently. Amara clung to the side, heart hammering, as the city lights grew smaller behind them. But the man's voice still echoed in her ears. Give me the envelope. Walk away. Safety. She pressed it tighter against her chest. She had chosen her side. There was no going back. Hours later, as dawn's first light bled into the horizon, the boat drifted near an old, crumbling pier miles away from the city. They tied it off, climbing onto the worn wood. Amara collapsed onto the planks, exhausted. Daniel sat beside her, his chest heaving. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the waves whispered against the shore. Finally, Amara broke the silence. Do you believe him? That offer he made? Safety if I handed this over? Daniel stared at the sea, his expression heavy. He wasn't lying. They could give you everything you've ever dreamed of. But it would be a cage. And the moment you stop being useful, they'd kill you. Amara swallowed hard. Then there's only one way forward. Daniel looked at her, his eyes searching. Which is? Her voice trembled, but her resolve was steel. Expose them. Burn it all down. Even if it means, she hesitated, the words catching in her throat. Even if it means I don't make it out. Daniel's face softened. He reached out, almost hesitantly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You're braver than I ever thought possible. Amara's throat tightened, a warmth in her chest she didn't expect. But she pushed it aside. There was no room for feelings. Not now. They found shelter in an abandoned shack near the pier. As the sun rose higher, Amara spread the documents across the dusty floor. Names, dates, transactions. Proof of a web so deep it made her dizzy. But one page stopped her cold. A name she recognized. Her own. Amara Daniels. Listed under assets unacquired. Her blood turned to ice. Daniel's eyes widened as he read it. No, oh God. Amara's voice shook. He was planning to take me. All this time. I was on his list. Her chest heaved, panic clawing at her throat. She had thought she was just a maid's daughter, invisible. But she had been marked. Targeted. Daniel gripped her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. Listen to me. That's why you can't stop now. He won't let you go, Amara. Not until you're his. The only way out is to finish this. Do you understand? Tears blurred her vision, but she nodded. Then we fight. Suddenly, the shack door slammed open. Amara and Daniel spun around, too late. The suited man from the warehouse stood there, flanked by guards. His smile was colder than dawn. You've run far enough, he said softly. His eyes dropped to the papers scattered on the floor. And look, you even opened the treasure for me. How thoughtful. Amara scrambled to grab the envelope, but the guards were faster. Guns raised. Trapped. The man stepped closer, his voice low, almost intimate. Last chance, girl. Hand it over. Choose survival. Or, he gestured lazily at the guards. You both vanish here, forgotten by the world. Daniel moved in front of Amara, his body tense. You'll have to kill me first. The man chuckled darkly. If you insist. He lifted his hand, and the guards cocked their weapons. Amara's heart thundered. Her vision blurred. This was it. Unless she did something now. Something reckless. Her fingers brushed against a rusted lantern on the floor, half filled with oil. A single spark could turn the whole shack into a furnace. Her mind screamed with the danger of it. But her soul whispered, better to burn than to bow. Her hand closed around the lantern. The shack was a coffin waiting to close. Guns aimed. Shadows thickened. The man in the fine suit smiled as if victory already belonged to him. Amara's fingers tightened around the rusted lantern. Her heart slammed so violently she thought the men might hear it. Daniel's body blocked hers, but she knew if she didn't act, he'd die first. The man's voice was low, coaxing. Hand it over, girl. This isn't courage. This is foolishness. You're one step from death, and for what? Paper? Amara's chest rose and fell in trembling defiance. Not paper. Truth. And before anyone could stop her, she hurled the lantern against the ground. It shattered. Oil splashed across the dusty floor, igniting instantly. Flames roared upward, devouring wood, racing like living serpents toward the guards' boots. Chaos exploded. The guards stumbled back, shouting. Smoke filled the shack. The man cursed, his composure cracking. Daniel grabbed Amara's hand, dragging her through the growing inferno. Bullets cracked through the air, but the fire ate the oxygen, choking the room, forcing their enemies back. Run! Daniel coughed, pulling her through the smoke. They crashed through a side window, shards slicing Amara's arms as they tumbled into the dirt outside. Behind them, the shack burned like a beacon, flames clawing at the sky. They staggered into the brush, coughing, eyes streaming from smoke. Amara's chest heaved, adrenaline searing her veins. The envelope was still clutched in her hand, singed but safe. Daniel looked at her, astonished. You could have killed us both. Her voice shook, but fire still burned in her eyes. Better to die free than live as their pawn. Daniel stared at her a long moment, then shook his head, a wry smile breaking through his fear. You're madness. Pure madness. And you followed me, Amara shot back. Their laughter was brief, shaky, cut short by the distant sound of sirens. The fire had drawn attention, too much attention. Daniel's face hardened. They'll blame this on us. My father will spin the story before the ash cools. We need to move. Amara swallowed hard, her body aching. Where? To the lawyer, Daniel said firmly. It's the only way. By nightfall, they reached the city again, not the shining towers of Sterling's world, but the broken streets of the forgotten poor. Graffiti stained the walls, the air smelled of smoke and fried food, and tired faces shuffled through alleyways. For Amara, it felt like home. Daniel led her into a dimly lit office above a shuttered shop. Inside, stacks of papers and old books crowded every surface. A man sat behind the desk, his hair graying, his eyes sharp despite exhaustion. "Mr. Hale," Daniel said. The lawyer looked up, frowning. "Daniel Sterling. If you've come to waste my time." Amara stepped forward, slamming the envelope on his desk. "He hasn't. We brought you this." Hale blinked, suspicious. He opened the envelope, scanning the contents. His eyes widened. His breath caught. "This," his voice trembled. "This is everything. The contracts. The names. The proof I've been chasing for years." He looked up at Amara, disbelief and awe in his eyes. "Where did you get this?" Amara's voice was steady. "I stole it. From the belly of his house." Hale leaned back, stunned. For the first time in years, hope flickered in his weary gaze. "Do you know what this means? We can take him down. Not just him, all of them." Amara's throat tightened. "Then do it. Please. Before more children vanish." But Hale's face darkened. "It won't be simple. Men like Sterling don't fall without pulling the world down with them. The moment this goes public, your life is over. They'll hunt you. Silence you." Amara glanced at Daniel, then back at Hale. "They already marked me. My name is in those files. I have nothing left to lose." Daniel's jaw clenched. "And I'm not letting her face this alone." Hale studied them, then nodded slowly. "Very well. But once we light this fire, there's no turning back." Amara whispered, almost to herself, "I already lit the fire." That night, Hale began preparing the documents for release to independent journalists and international investigators. The truth was too big to bury if spread wide enough. But Amara couldn't rest. She sat by the window, staring at the city lights, her thoughts heavy. Her mother didn't even know she was gone. Didn't know the danger circling. Tears stung her eyes. "Mama. I did this for you. For us." Daniel sat beside her, quiet. Finally, he spoke. "Do you regret it?" Amara shook her head. "I regret not doing it sooner." Silence stretched, comfortable, heavy with unspoken fear. Daniel's hand brushed against hers, tentative. For once, she didn't pull away. Morning came with violence. The door to Hale's office crashed open. Armed men stormed in, shouting. Hale barely had time to grab the files before they ripped them from his hands. Amara screamed as a guard struck Daniel across the face, forcing him to the ground. The suited man from before strode in, untouched, smiling coldly. "You thought you could hide, little maid? You thought truth would protect you?" He waved the files in his hand. "This is mine again. And you," his gaze sharpened on Amara. "You are coming with me." Two guards seized her, their grips like iron. She fought, kicked, screamed, but they dragged her toward the door. Daniel struggled to rise, blood on his lip. "Let her go." The man sneered. "Oh, Daniel. Still pretending you're not your father's son. Don't worry. You'll see her again, in chains." Amara's heart thundered with terror as they hauled her into the waiting car outside. Through the glass, she saw Daniel's face, broken, desperate, as he lunged forward before being held back. The car roared to life, carrying her away. The man leaned close, his whisper like poison. "You should have taken the deal. Now you belong to us." Amara's tears burned hot on her cheeks, but her eyes hardened. Deep inside, the fire still burned. This wasn't the end. If they thought she would break, they didn't know Amara Daniels. And as the city swallowed her, Daniel collapsed to his knees in the ruined office, rage boiling inside him. For the first time in his life, he swore an oath. "Father or not, family or not, I will bring him down. For her." The black car moved like a coffin on wheels, its tinted windows sealing Amara from the outside world. The suited man sat across from her, calm, smug, his fingers drumming against the stolen envelope of files. "You should have taken the money," he said softly, almost like a lullaby. "You're young, pretty. We could have given you a good life. Instead, you chose fire. Now fire will consume you." Amara lifted her chin, her wrists raw from the guard's grip. "I'd rather burn for truth than live in your shadow." For the first time, his smile faltered. His eyes hardened like stone. Meanwhile, Daniel raced through the city with Hale at his side. His face still bruised, his shirt stained, but his spirit no longer fragile. Rage had carved him into someone new, someone willing to fight. Hale gripped the wheel tightly. "Listen, boy, if they have her, they'll use her as leverage. They don't kill useful pawns. But we must act fast before they disappear her forever." Daniel clenched his fists. Where would they take her? Hale's jaw tensed. The Sterling estate. Deep inside, there's a chamber where records are kept, where no law ever enters. If she's there, she won't last long. Daniel's eyes burned. Then that's where we go. Back at the estate, Amara was dragged through marble halls, her bare feet slipping on the polished floor. The mansion was silent, almost holy, like a cathedral to greed. They shoved her into a dim room. High shelves of ledgers towered, rows of locked drawers humming with secrets. The suited man stood in the doorway. "You wanted truth. Look around. This is the graveyard of truth, buried, locked, silenced." Amara's chest heaved, but her eyes darted, memorizing every detail. She wasn't broken. Not yet. That night, Sterling himself returned. The billionaire. Gray hair sharp as steel, his presence heavy as a storm. He entered the room like a king, his guards parting before him. His gaze fell on Amara, chained to a chair. His voice was quiet, cutting. "So, the maid's daughter thinks she can shame me." Amara met his eyes, refusing to bow. "The world will see you. I'll make sure of it." Sterling chuckled, deep and cruel. "The world doesn't care about truth. It cares about power. And I hold it." But at that moment, far above, on the roof, Daniel and Hale slipped through the shadows. The guards were fewer than expected. Daniel's pulse hammered as he whispered, "She's here. I can feel it." Hale loaded the small pistol he carried. "Then tonight, we end this." Inside the chamber, Sterling leaned close to Amara, his cologne thick, his voice a hiss. "Tell me, girl. Did you think you could win? Did you think a maid's child could touch a king?" Amara's lip trembled, but her words were blades. "Yes. Because even kings bleed." Sterling's eyes narrowed. He raised his hand as if to strike her, but the door burst open. Daniel stormed in, fury blazing, Hale at his side. "Let her go." Daniel's voice cracked through the room. Sterling froze. Then a slow smile spread across his face. "My son. Finally, you show some spine." Daniel aimed the pistol Hale had given him, his hands trembling but his eyes steady. "You taught me power is everything. Tonight, I teach you truth is stronger." The guards reached for weapons, but Hale fired first, shattering the silence. Chaos erupted. Bullets, shouts, smoke. Amara wrenched against her chains, screaming Daniel's name. He dove, tackling one of the guards, fighting with fists, desperation fueling every blow. Sterling roared, fury stripping away his polished mask. He lunged at Daniel, grabbing his throat, shoving him against the wall. "You ungrateful child!" Sterling bellowed. "I gave you life, and you betray me for a maid's whelp?" Daniel's face turned red as Sterling's grip tightened. Amara's eyes darted to the desk, to a shard of glass from a shattered frame. With every ounce of strength, she bent forward, slicing her wrist free. Blood trickled, but the chain fell loose. She grabbed the shard, leapt forward, and pressed it against Sterling's neck. "Let him go." Sterling froze. For the first time, true fear flickered in his eyes. Daniel gasped for breath, shoving his father back as Amara held firm. The guards hesitated, guns wavering. Hale raised his voice, commanding, "It's over. The files are gone, sent to every journalist in this city. Even if you kill us, your empire burns tonight." Sterling's face twisted. Lies. But even as he spat the word, his phone buzzed in his pocket. A notification. Another. Another. Headlines already spreading. His sins unraveling in real time. The king was falling. By dawn, the mansion was swarming with police. For the first time in decades, Sterling's name was chained with handcuffs. Cameras flashed as officers dragged him into custody. Amara stood outside, bloodied, exhausted, the rising sun warming her face. Daniel came beside her, his arm bandaged, his body aching. But his eyes were alive. "You did it," he whispered. "You tore down the giant." Amara shook her head softly. "No. We did." Hale approached, weary but smiling. "This isn't just his fall. It's a warning. To every man like him." Amara looked at the rising sun, tears brimming. She thought of her mother, still working, still dreaming. Soon, she would tell her everything. Weeks later, the world buzzed with the fallout. Sterling's empire collapsed. Families of victims stepped forward, their voices no longer silenced. And Amara? She walked through the city with her head high. No longer just a maid's daughter. No longer invisible. At night, Daniel sat with her on the roof of Hale's office, looking at the stars. His hand found hers, gentle, certain. "You changed everything," he said. Amara smiled faintly. "Not everything. Just enough." She whispered into the night, her words carrying like prayer. "Power can sleep. But truth never dies. No matter how powerful the oppressor, no matter how buried the truth, courage has a way of igniting the fire. And once lit, that fire can burn through empires.